It's the political gift that keeps on giving, at least for those not in government. Hello and welcome to the Unpublished Cafe. I'm Ed Hand. The SNC-Lavalin affair continues to put wind in the sails of the federal opposition members. The explosive story of political meddling and a judicial decision was just the tip of the iceberg. Since the story broke, it's become much more than just a he said, she said dispute. There's been calls for the Prime Minister to step down, a call for a public inquiry, even a police investigation. And for the Liberals, blood is in the pool and the sharks are circling. As mentioned, this scandal keeps fanning the flames of discontent. Now we have a damning audio recording between Jody, Wilson, Raybould, and Canada's top public servant, Michael Wernick, in which a deferred prosecution agreement is discussed for SNC-Lavalin. And that takes the story in a whole new ethical and legal direction. Now, here on the Unpublished Cafe, we will endeavor to bring you the leaders of the federal parties for their perspective on the issue. As for SNC-Lavalin, it estimates it's lost $5 billion in potential business since the scandal broke, and its competitors are using this scandal to their benefit. One man who's been watching this issue closely as a federal party leader, but also as a Quebecer who's very cognizant of SNC-Lavalin's place in that province, is Maxime Bernier. He is the founder and leader of the New People's Party of Canada, which could have a dramatic impact on the upcoming election. And Maxime Bernier joins us right now on the Unpublished Cafe. And Maxime, I want to thank you for joining us. First off, as a Quebecer, what does SNC-Lavalin mean to that province?
You know, it's like you guys. You know, I'm not so proud that SNC-Lavalin, it's a corrupt business. It's a corrupt corporation. And you know that they're not above the law. I said that publicly in French and in English, and the prosecution must go on. So what's happening right now in Ottawa, it's all about cronyism. It's all about crony capitalism. The Liberals want to have more votes in Quebec, and they did everything, and they wanted to please SNC-Lavalin and their friends. So that's why it was so important for them, for SNC-Lavalin, to have a special deal. But, you know, I think Quebecers understand that if SNC-Lavalin is going bankrupt, you know, the asset of SNC-Lavalin, it is a human asset. It is the brain of people who are working at SNC-Lavalin. And I'm sure that these people will be able to find another job in another corporation. So I'm not so concerned about that, contrary to the government and the Prime Minister, who said that he wanted to have a special deal to save 9,000 jobs in Quebec. First of all, it is a lie. It is not 9,000 jobs. At the end, in Quebec, it's about 3,000 jobs in Quebec, so not 9,000. And the president of SNC-Lavalin said that a couple of days ago that these jobs were not at risk at the end. So it's all about, you know, trying to please some friends, and that's why with a PPC government, you won't have that, because we'll cut all subsidies to businesses, the small, the medium one, the big one, no more corporate welfare, and no privilege to any corporation. So like that, you know, they won't be able to ask for a special privilege. And it's very interesting because the lobbyists for SNC-Lavalin, they went to Ottawa and they lobby all the leaders, Andrew Scheer, Jack Meeting, and the Bloc Québécois, and Justin Trudeau. But they didn't call me. They didn't want to see me, because it's very clear that, you know, I'm not playing that game. The question is for Andrew Scheer, is it ready to give a special privilege to SNC-Lavalin? And he never answered that question, because he wants to pander to Quebec also. He wants to have more seats in Quebec also. So for us, these people and the lobbyists for SNC-Lavalin didn't call us, didn't call me, and that's good news, because they knew that, you know, you cannot buy us. You know, we have policies that are fair for every Canadian. And that's why I think the People's Party, it's going very well. We are creating a new movement in this country, and I'm very pleased with what's happening right now for us.
You mentioned the leaders are pandering to Quebec for the votes, and you know, I find that kind of ironic. As you are a Quebecer, you would figure you'd be working those votes in Quebec as well. Are you trying to take your party more nationally?
Yeah, but it's a national party. You know, we have we're not like the Reform Party at that time when they had only an organization out west and they didn't have any support in Quebec and in Atlantic Canada. For us, we're a real national party. And yes, I want to have votes in Quebec. And yes, I want to have votes in Atlantic Canada and in Western Canada. But the way I'm doing that, I'm appealing to the intelligence of people and not to their emotion. And my role in politics is to explain our policies. And the more I'm speaking about that, the more support I will have. And I'm telling Quebecers, it's not fair. It's not fair to give a special deal to SNC-Lavalin, and the entrepreneurs in Quebec and business people in Quebec understand that. They understand that it is not fair, and they won't have any special deal because they don't have time to pay for lobbyists and things like that. So nobody is above the law. So for me, my goal is to explain that policy to Quebecers and Canadians, and I'm counting on their intelligence for having their votes, and I think it will work at the end.
Now, in terms of deferred prosecution agreement that SNC-Lavalin is seeking, you say, and your perspective is no, they should never get it. I'm kind of curious. Do you think there's a place for this DPA legislation, or do we not need it at all?
We don't need it at all, and I'm the only leader. If you ask Andrew Scheer and all the other leaders, they'll tell you that we need to have that possibility in our legislative framework in Canada. No, I will repeal that SNC-Lavalin clause in the last budget. We don't need that. We didn't have that for the last 151 years. And so, no, that's very important for us. No special deal. And then when I'm saying that, we won't be able to do that because we will. When I'm saying we, the government, PPC government, won't be able to do that because we will repeal that possibility to have a DPA with a corporation.
Maxime Bernier is joining us on the Unpublished Cafe. He is the founder and leader of the New People's Party of Canada as we discuss the SNC-Lavalin affair, which continues to unravel. And Maxime, this is far from SNC-Lavalin's first brush with the law. You've called the company corrupt. Do you think it has a chronic problem?
I think they had a chronic problem in the past with their manager. I'm not pointing at the employees of SNC-Lavalin. I think that the huge majority of them are respecting the legislation and are very professional and competent. But they had a problem in the past with their management, and I think now they have a new management team. But it's they have to be responsible for the actions that the corporation did in the past.
Now, I think the part that bothers me the most about SNC-Lavalin is the fact that it's the image on the world stage of a Canadian company that's been doing business with a brutal dictator and going back to Libya and Muammar Gaddafi. At some point, how do we address the damage to the Canadian reputation?
But the first thing will be not to have any special deal with that corrupt corporation. That will be the first thing to do. And second, we must have free market policies in this country. We must be able to show to people outside our country that we are not picking winner and loser, and we won't give any subsidies to businesses. So that will be important. And foreign investment and businesses are welcome to Canada. As you know, investment is the engine of the economy. We need more investment for having more economic growth and jobs. So they will come. I think the best way to be attractive for foreign investment and other corporations outside this country is to have the best fiscal framework. And we don't have that right now. And we must start by repealing that clause that gives the possibility for the federal government to have a special deal with a corrupt corporation.
Now, there's been calls from the opposition to have Jody Wilson-Raybould speak again in the House. Now, do you want to hear from her again?
Yes, for sure. Like the other, we need to have a public inquiry. I think that will be important. But all that started by by the fact that the Liberals wanted to buy votes in Quebec and use the people's money to give privilege to SNC-Lavalin and subsidies to SNC-Lavalin. So it's cronyism at the base of all that. Yes, it would be important to know a little bit better about it, but the fact that we have a scandal like that, it's because of the cronyism and the crony capitalism that the Trudeau government is playing.
Tell me something. You obviously have been out on the campaign trail right across the country. And is this an issue that you're hearing about at the doors, or are there other things that are taking more priority with Canadians?
No, it is not. It is a good question. It is not. It is a big file for the Conservatives because, as you know, Andrew Scheer is not able to beat Justin Trudeau with policies, and Justin Trudeau is helping Andrew Scheer right now with that scandal. But we don't know the platform of the Conservatives. We don't know what they believe in. They don't have any conviction. Andrew Scheer said that the Conservative Party of Canada is now a centrist and pragmatic political party with lots of ideas for a lot of people. So he wants to please everybody, and he will tell you what you want to hear without any conviction. So that's why he was not able to beat Justin Trudeau before that scandal. Now they must be the Conservatives are very happy with that. But when I'm traveling across the country in our rallies, people out west and in Atlantic Canada, they want pipelines. That's important. And in New Brunswick, they know that it will create jobs over there. Same thing in Montreal. So they want a leader that will use the Constitution. And I'm the only one who said that. And I'm saying that every time that we can use the Constitution, the Section 9210, to impose a pipeline after consultation on provinces that doesn't want any pipeline on their territory like Quebec and BC. So it's important because, it's for the unity of our country. And that clause in the Constitution has been used more than 300 times since the Confederation. So it is a federal jurisdiction, and the federal government has the authority to decide at the end, but also politicians and leaders must have the courage to use it, and I'm the only one who say that. So that's very important for them. And what I'm hearing also, it's all about the equalization formula and the fact that in Western Canada, they're paying and they're having economic trouble right now, and Quebec is on receiving end, a have-not province for the last 45 years. And so we need to change that formula for giving the right incentive to province like Quebec and New Brunswick to develop their own natural resources. So we need to change the formula to be less generous, and I'm the only one to speak about that also. But that's very important for the unity of our country. As you know, there's a provincial election in Alberta, and you have two independentist political parties at the provincial level. It's a fact. It's very important for people in Alberta. They want these files to be looked at, and the other politicians, they don't want to speak about it. So I think there's other things that the people in Canada are worried more than that scandal. So I think that's very important when I'm traveling. I can listen these people speaking about our economic future, and they're worried about that.
Maxime Bernier is joining us on the Unpublished Cafe, founder and leader of the People's Party of Canada, as we talk about the SNC-Lavalin affair that continues to unravel. And then on Friday, Maxime, we hear a 17-minute audio recording between Jody Wilson-Raybould and Michael Wernick. And what concerns does this bring to you?
But first of all, when you have a cabinet minister that is taping and doing that with another person, at least you must tell that person that you will do that. Ethically, I think it is not so great, but it was good for us to know that and to see what the clerk said to her. I think it's an important part in that scandal, and I hope that we'll know a little bit more. But like I said in the beginning, I'm tired to speak about that scandal because it is all the cronyism, and the conservative, they want to do that. They try to please everybody. They call that outreach. They want to outreach different ethnic group in different riding. They want to do the same thing with Quebec. They don't have a platform right now because they're too busy to do polling and survey, and they want to know what group of people want to hear. So for us, I don't believe in polling. I don't do anything. I'm doing politics by conviction, and that's it. We have the best ideas based on freedom and personal responsibility. We just have to speak about it. But it's all the way that they're doing politics in Ottawa. Yes, the Liberals, but also the Conservatives, trying to pander to every special region or every special interest group. I don't play that kind of politics. And for me, I said it's the end of the politically correctness. There's nothing that must not be said. If you believe in something, you must speak about it with passion and conviction. But that scandal, it is a scandal. Yes, I admit that. But we must speak a little bit more about the origin of that scandal. And that's why I'm not so happy with the news. They don't speak about it, why we have a scandal like that at the beginning. And I think that's the important part if you want to solve it in the future, in the near future.
You mentioned you don't play politics, but obviously here we are in politics. You're looking to make a breakthrough federally with your new party, and let's face it, you're going to have to play a bit with provincial premiers. Quebec Premier François Legault wants the federal government to do everything it can to save SNC-Lavalin. How do you see a working arrangement between you and François Legault with polar opposite views?
But, first of all, I think the Constitution is very well written. They have their own jurisdiction and responsibility, and the federal government has our own. We have our own responsibility also. Speaking about François Legault, when he said that, dirty oil from Alberta, I'm coming from Quebec in Beauce. That's my riding, about an hour south of Quebec City. And people in my riding, they were not proud about concerning François Legault when he said that. So, sometimes the Quebec politicians try to please the radical environmentalists instead of listening to the population. So, yes, if I'm Prime Minister, I will have to have good relationship with our premiers. But first, I will respect their jurisdiction and I will ask them to do the same. And the best example, it's on pipeline. We need to do consultation, but at the end, it's a federal decision. And I will tell them that, I will respect your jurisdiction in healthcare, in provincial matters, but you must do the same thing at the federal level. So like that, we'll be able to have a constitutional peace in this country.
Maxime, I want to thank you for joining us.
But thank you very much for giving me that opportunity, and I'll be there if you need me. If you want to have me on your show, it's always a privilege to be with you.
Maxime Bernier is the founder and leader of the People's Party of Canada, and as you heard, he is dead set against a deferred prosecution agreement for SNC-Lavalin. He goes as far as outright calling the company corrupt. We here at the Unpublished Cafe will bring you more coverage of the scandal by bringing you the federal leaders to give you their perspective on this issue. I want to thank you for listening to the Unpublished Cafe. I'm Ed Hand.